And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Good evening, Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for RBLR Sports. I am here tonight to talk about the Rowdies for our Rowdies show. I do not have Leo with me this week. I have our producer, Eureka. So I will do what we usually do to start the show, and I will ask you, Eureka, how are you feeling today? How are things going?
I'm good. I'm the frequently used substitute for Rowdies Nation here. Doing well. It's a wonderful night in Tampa Bay, and very excited for the future, the present, the past. Talking about the Rowdies. Let's go.
Absolutely. There's a ton to get to for this past week and this week coming up. This has been a busy month, and this episode will be no different here. So, last week the Rowdies played 2 games, as I said, and on Wednesday they lost to Orlando City 2-1 away from home. On Saturday they drew with New York Red Bulls 1-1, also away from home. Not the results that we wanted in either of those games, naturally, but that's what you got to get, unfortunately. Leo and I predicted, he predicted a loss, and I predicted a win versus Orlando City, so he gets 1 point there. And we both predicted wins versus the New York Red Bulls, so neither of us gets anything. Leo only got 1 point to add to that, and that leaves him at 8 and me at 7. So we will have to pick it up from there moving forward, because we do have something to say here coming up, Eureka. I will leave this to you now. I believe that you are the best person to announce this for RBLR.
No, I'm very, very happy. Leo Santos, of course, our beloved co-host here, made a very big announcement on his own Twitter that he is joining 10 Tampa Bay as a content producer. This is a phenomenal news. It's something he's been working on very, very hard behind the scenes. We've been cheering him on and helping him get to where he needs to be. And now he gets to be in one of the largest markets as a journalist making content. You will be seeing Mr. Santos a lot more. So get ready, Tampa Bay. It's very, very cool. So, but that also means that he's going to be a little busy. So he's not going away, but we might have to hit the free transfer market, James. We might have to go out and see who's the next kind of bright, young future superstar to bring in to the team here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, again, this is something that you, the producer, has been working on behind the scenes, and something that I'm very excited about. But we are only going to hint at it this week, as you said. We have a big announcement coming up here, something along the Rowdies on Twitter during the off season.
I'm gonna have to do the siren emoji like the admin.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be perfect for it. But before we move on to that, because as I said, we're going to do that next week. We have the 2 games that just happened, and we also have 2 games coming up this week to preview. So let's get through that tonight. We will be playing away to Memphis on Wednesday, something that we got to get up for. And then this Saturday night, we will be at home to San Diego Loyal. I hope everybody is there for that and joins us to see the game. But before we move in to anything else for our reviews, our questions, analysis, all of that stuff, please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. And of course, if you have not, please like and subscribe to our podcast on all major podcast platforms, whichever one you use. Of course, you don't have to go individually to all of them, but please follow us there. So we will move ahead into our quick review for the game versus Orlando City. And that always is started with the 11 who were out on the field to begin the game. Raiko Rosarena was the starting goalkeeper, so an interesting wrinkle there. Lawrence White, Connor Antley, Aaron Guillen were our center backs. Dayon Harris, Lewis Hilton, Junior Etu, and Leo Fernandez were in the midfield. Jake LaCava, Steven Dos Santos, and Sebastian Guenzati were all up top. So the Rowdies started this game very early and well. We have had some problems where the Rowdies did not start the game from the whistle. They built into it. That was not the case here. Unfortunately, however, we did give up a penalty early in the second half, and that made it difficult to actually win the game. Orlando City went up, and despite all of our efforts, we could only get one and not the equalizer. So all of the RBLR Rowdies crew did get to be there, so we've got all the coverage, we've got all the takes. Don't you worry about that. But it was still unfortunate regardless of that.
It was a great night in terms of seeing the mob and the Skyway casuals that bust into Orlando. We got to talk to before the game. I got to talk to I got to get over there because they were separated from the rest of the entire stadium. But it was nice to get over there and kind of shake hands and high fives and share some Iron Brew with some people, and then get into man, it was a really good preview you guys did last week because I think we were prepared for anything. I even talking online with a lot of the Rowdies faithful, some people were prepared for a just an annihilation and just like, hey, what are you going to do? But also that we're playing with house money, that we could go in there, give it our best effort, and the pie in the sky is come out with a win and advance into the next round. But also that as long as they give a valiant effort, I think that the mob and the casuals have to be very, very excited about this game, other than the unfortunate result.
Yeah, no, that's a very good way to put it, actually. The game went really well from a Rowdy's perspective, other than just the goals that we gave up. But yeah, based on everything that we saw here, I think the first talking point, like I said, it was a very interesting starting 11 here. So yeah, after these last few games, it kind of has me wondering what our best 11 is. What do you think, Eureka?
Yeah, I remember when I kind of retweeted the 11, it immediately sparked conversation in our group chat. Like, whoa, wait a second. I think that a Rosarena is getting played because of the hot hand, but to have Wyke, Antley, Guillen as your back three, and maybe Harris on the outside, there were some questions about like. Why we're putting Wyke in the back three of a big cup game, because if you ask the mob, if you ask the casuals, if you ask everyone else, the fans, this was a big game. This was like almost as big as the playoff games that'll be later on. But so to have a little bit of rotation was weird, because I would say our best 11 is probably Cochran, Scarlett, Antley, Guillen. And then in the midfield, Hilton, Wyke, Fernandez, and then Neil likes to play, depending on whoever we're playing, either Etu, Ecker, or Armin. Like one of those three kind of get interchanged. But and then having Guinzotti, LaCava, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Greg is actually our last person of that 11.
Well, that's definitely a little bit of a hot take here, because Steven Dos Santos
I'm
did
getting a
get
little
the start
spicy
against Orlando. But of course, yeah, Kyle Gregg got the start in the next game, which we will get to in a bit here. But yeah, it's very interesting to see, as I said, like who actually is getting all of these nods here from Neil Collins, because he has not been shy about chopping and changing when he thinks that we need to do that. For one thing, I guess Sebastian Dalgard is out. I haven't had a chance to ask Neil about that specifically, because we've only been doing post games and not pre-game videos for them having such a busy week. But yeah, Dayon Harris, he came in there and he did a very good job over on the right wing. I thought that the whole of the right wing, in fact, did an incredible job against Orlando City. They did so well for me. But maybe Dayon Harris plays his way into that team a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, see, I think that the speed that he brings was definitely the focal point for having in the OC match, having Leo Fernandez on one side and then having Guinzotti and Harris on the other side to kind of get that playmaking and speed and kind of the finesse on that side. But the first thing, I guess, is the way that either OC was playing us defensively, or maybe that Leo Fernandez was just having a hell of a match. I saw a lot of possession on the other side. I mean, the right side to me seemed like they just couldn't really get anything. There was a couple runs, but nothing of real note. And either they were keying in on Guinzotti, but he wasn't able to really conjure up a lot of that magic. But whenever they kicked it over to Leo, man, he was working, and I think he was one of the best players on the pitch, and he picked a great time to have his best game of the season so far.
Yeah, I think that, one thing that I noticed between the right and the left side is that Orlando City, at least in the first half, things did change in the second half, but they had a lot more attack going down their right side because their right fullback, Huan, he is a speedster. He is known throughout the league as being a speedster. And their
Yeah.
left back was Kyle Smith, who was actually playing a lot more defensively than Huan was for, the whole time that he was out on the field. I think Kyle Smith only played the first half, but as it happened, Kyle Smith eventually kind of, he was playing more of a third center back role. He was on the left side, the way kind of we have Aaron Guillen a lot. But yeah, it didn't really, have to worry too much about them going down the left side. So I think that added to Dayon Harris getting up a lot more frequently. But overall, the thing was, it was just very interesting to see that the Rowdies lineup. They went out to play the Rowdies game, which everybody knows is, try to keep possession, try to keep the ball on the ground until we get these large balls from Lewis Hilton out to the wing for the most part, and then we get up the wing and we try to get across in stuff like that. And it really worked. It had a lot of good effects against this team, and there was a good amount of rotation from Orlando City, at least for the first half. But
Yeah.
I still think that we had a lot of success with it. So that kind of leads me though into the next question that I've got here. Obviously, the Rowdies did have this incredible game that you and I have been discussing for a couple minutes now. But, what kind of separates these two sides? There were some designated players that Orlando brought on in the second half, and it seemed to, just really get away from us at that point. Well, not entirely. I shouldn't say that. But
No.
for for the first half of the second half, let's say, Orlando was definitely taking control.
Yeah, if I had to say separate, like from the very beginning, from the first kick, it was just like the Rowdies showed up. There were tons of pressure. I believe they did a wonderful job owning the midfield, and it was kind of unique because I'm in the press box, and I don't think any of the Orlando press did any, I don't want to say did any research, but they did very little research because there were a lot of questions like, wait, who's number 4? Wait, who's number, oh, and they're reciting. And they even, a couple of the guys in the first 15 minutes pointed out, oh, number 4, that's a weak point. He's very slow. And I'm like, oh, well, get ready because he's got a motor on him. I know, I see that look that you're giving me. And I'm, I'm in the press box, so I'm not cheering or yelling, but I'm just sitting back and observing and taking notes about, like, get ready, guys. You're about to learn who these guys are real quick. And they didn't disappoint. I believe they were able to play their game that, like you said, they want to play, that we've seen them play in the USL Championship. They like to own the ball, they like to move it, and they like to either work it from the outside in and see what happens. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, statistically, I guess they ended up not owning possession in the long run, but for the first 20, 30 minutes, they absolutely took control of this game. And even when OC was on the counter, which we are definitely prone to counterattack, I think that the back three did a great job with and Dayon Harris and Fernandez being able to recover and get back into that defensive shape. I thought that they just did a great job, like, making the recoveries, getting the ball, and really just had a good first touch. I mean, I think that was very impressive, especially when you're looking at second division players, quote unquote, versus first division players, quote unquote. There was not a very big difference, even with rotated guys on their end. There wasn't a very big difference in terms of quality of play, and maybe the Rowdies just had they ate their Wheaties and they drank their Gatorade and they were ready for this match. But it was apparent that we came to play and there was going to be a battle on their hands.
Yeah, for me, I think that the problem really wasn't necessarily that the Rowdies were, a markedly lesser team. I guess that, some of these guys, they probably have tried out for MLS. I mean, some of them obviously have played in MLS, but some of them have had MLS tryouts in the past, and for whatever reason, those didn't work. But I don't think that these guys are that far below MLS level that they would not be able to make a squad or anything like that. I think that really what the difference is in this game, it actually turned out to be momentum, because if you look at the way that it went, unfortunately, Aaron Guillen does give up a penalty there. And I think on first watch, when we were all there, we're obviously a little emotionally biased in it. But I was like, I could not believe that this penalty was given and that he scored a goal off of it. That's ridiculous. And then I went back and I watched it and I was like, you know what? That's probably a penalty. And there really wasn't that much, complaint from the other Rowdies players. So I think that they kind of realized that too. I think that the momentum swung Orlando's way upon them getting that penalty and scoring the goal. And that's ultimately how they broke us down a second time and got a second goal. But when the Rowdies got themselves back into the game, and they did have to work their way back in, but once they did, they really were not second best again. They were the team for the last 15, 20 minutes, I would say, that was controlling the game, and they were, this close to putting themselves back into that spot where they could equalize. But despite all of these incredible performances, we really could not equalize in the end, obviously, because we're not talking about how that happened. But for me, what went wrong? That's the big question between what is the difference between the Orlando City side and the Tampa Bay Rowdies? So what went wrong is that they got their chances and they took them. That's the big thing that you hear a lot in soccer. It seems to be a cliche how frequently you hear it, that they're like, well, the good teams, they're going to be the ones that punish you. And that's kind of how it works. The Rowdies did create all of these chances that we have been talking about, but unfortunately, they did not turn all of those good situations that they created into the chances that they could then put into the back of the net. I saw the night before, just as a quick example, I saw the Miami FC play against Inter Miami, another MLS USL Championship game. And the first half, I think it was Kyle Murphy, former Rowdies player, who had a one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he is going up against Inter Miami's goalkeeper. I don't think it was even their starting goalkeeper. And I'm like, you got to score this. You got to score this if they want to have any chance of getting through. He did not score it, and on a breakaway. And then, go lo and behold, Inter Miami go on to win the game 1-0. And those are the margins, if you are not going to put yourself in the situation, or if you are going to put yourself in the situation and then you are not going to be able to put those in the back of the net, then unfortunately that is going to be the difference here. And I think that is really where the quality won out on the night for Orlando City.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish we had a legitimate threat from the top of the box. Not that they didn't try a couple shots from there, but it's just we were talking during the game about crosses, and not to be negative, but I mean, this is what we're talking about right now, is crosses to nowhere. Just tons of crosses, none of them connecting. Which is part and parcel, I guess, for how this offense is designed to run, or at least these are the results that we have seen for 2 years now. And it was just like, for this match to be so tightly contested, and we haven't really talked about how physical this game was yet. We haven't really talked about the refereeing or the yellows and all that kind of stuff.
Not yet, but yes.
But not yet. But that keys into how tightly contested and how chippy and how just very intense this was, that every cross felt like a moment. And then it was like, we're just waiting on that one moment that we need. And unfortunately, if we would have there were a few opportunities, whether it was LaCava, whether it was Wyke even, whether it was one of these guys at the top of the box, just taking an extra dribble or making an extra pass. And if they, I don't know if it's confidence or just they don't see the opportunity, or they're trying to be sound in their play. But man, if there was just one of these Golazzos in their pocket that they could have unfurled, it would have just been a completely different game up until that penalty. And so it was just, that was really the tension of the match, is that it was so tightly contested and we just couldn't make a moment happen, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to use one more example from outside the Rowdies Orlando game to demonstrate this point. The way that I have been kind of thinking about it the last two games, the Orlando City game and the one against the New York Red Bulls on Saturday, I am reminded of this old truism about Arsene Wenger's Arsenal team from the 2000s to, when did he leave? 2015, let's say. His team was accused of always wanting to pass the ball into the back of the net. So what does that mean? For anyone who is unaware, Arsene Wenger was known for a very possession-heavy style. He liked to keep the ball on the ground, passes everywhere. And the team always wanted to score the beautiful goal. They didn't want to just get a scrappy one and like get it over the line, just get it in. They wanted to make sure that they got somebody in a great position and he was able to pass it back to somebody else who was open in a great position. And maybe he could pass it back to another person. It's like eventually somebody's just got to shoot and see what happens. And that is unfortunately, I think, something that the Rowdies were missing that night.
Tell me about it. As a self-proclaimed gooner here, I can tell you all about the frustration. That's why this is all too familiar. But I think that giving up the penalty, which I have opinions on the foul that led to that, but the giving up that penalty definitely kind of broke a seal. But it was good to see that even when they scored that second goal late in the game, not to jump too far ahead, but that one not very much difference was that Lucky Mkasana, coming on as a sub, was able to immediately score a goal to bring it back to a 1-goal game. And so the Rowdies just never felt like they were out of it. There's just small little tiny differences between this MLS squad, even rotated, and your Tampa Bay Rowdies. So I feel like all of us that love this Rowdies team should be very, very happy. And in the long run, I guess, if silver linings or anything, they put a valiant effort ahead. And what I did want to bring up one thing before we move on, though. I had a question. Do you believe, speaking of Lucky and coming in as a sub, do you think that the subs came in too late in this game?
Well, that's an interesting point. I think that we started pretty early with some of these. So Steven Dos Santos went off and Lucky came on pretty early, as you said. But yeah, the other ones did take a little while to happen. And you have to think. I think one of the bigger set of substitutions for me. So that I guess this came between the 65th and the 72nd minute. I don't have the exact minute in front of me, but I have them written down in between those two moments where Jordan Scarlett came on for Dayon Harris, and that meant Connor Antley moved up to the right wing. So that was important because at that point, Dayon Harris seemed to have either run out of steam or just lost his ability to control that right side, because at that point, Orlando City had brought on their starting left back, and he was actually starting to, get up that wing a little bit more. And that meant Dayon Harris had to do more defensive work. Obviously, all of these things have, consequences and all that kind of stuff. And then the other one was Jake Araman came on, and Jake LaCava went off, which meant Leo Fernandez went up top. And he actually had a lot better game up top this time than the last time I had seen him there. So, maybe you could say, I think the one thing I will say about that, though, is, they scored their second goal in the 63rd. We scored ours in the 65th, and all these substitutions happened right after that. So the only thing that maybe might have been different is if, Neil Collins, that is, makes all these substitutions right after our first goal conceded. So honestly, for the way that the game was being played, I'm not too upset about those substitutions. I think that maybe if you had done the later ones a little sooner, that would be different, because, you're chasing the game 2-0 down. You got to start doing it. But for when those two substitutions that I mentioned, for when they happened, I don't see any issue with their timing, because he was still trying to see if we could get back into the game at that point.
That's fair enough. Obviously, well, not obvious, but Lucky came in at the half as Dos Santos picked up a knock, unfortunately. But even before then, I had two players I wanted to talk about that we haven't gotten confirmation about anything, but I wanted to talk about. Dos Santos just seemed a bit slow in the first half, and I don't know if it's a mix of. He's not like a speedster anyway, although he does hustle. We've seen him chase down some crazy things before. Indeed. But he just kind of seemed, in my opinion, in one man's opinion, whether it's a mix of just the opponent being better, stronger, faster, whatever, or maybe he might have a slight knock, or I don't know. He just kind of seemed a little slow, a little off, the first touch was just a little off, and then unfortunately he did pick up a real injury that took him out of the game and forced Neil's hand early. The other person I wanted to bring up was Juan Tejada, who was announced as on the bench, and I saw him running around the pitch very, very early, but he did not end up in this game. And we were talking about Harris and kind of running out of steam. Moving around a couple guys, Juan Tejada would have definitely a full strength Juan Tejada would have been someone I think that could have created a little bit more offensive magic in that last 20 minutes, but what ultimately we didn't see him. Was there anything you saw about Dos Santos or what Tejada could have brought to this match?
Tejada, I will not address right now. I want to talk about him with the New York Rebels game because he did start there, so that will probably be the best setting for that that conversation. But for Steven Dos Santos, what I honestly think happened, at least for this game, is that Orlando City were kicking him from the first minute. He went off
true.
at
That's
halftime. But you could see that he had been kicked and knocked over several times before one where he like actually started holding and limping. So I'm not sure that the muscle. I think it was the back of his leg that he was holding. I don't know if it was a muscle injury or if it was like a contact injury, but I think that there was definitely something going on before that one where he actually started to visibly slow down. It's possibly the case that age is setting in and all that kind of stuff, but it might just be due to, in this case, Orlando City having some players who are like, well, this guy's really big, I'm going to get him off the field as soon as possible because he's still a nightmare to deal with.
Fair play, sir. And the last thing I guess I have notes on is this was a very physical. Well, this is a good segue into it. Very physical, like you would expect a true rivalry match to be. Although most of these guys weren't around the last time Orlando and Tampa Bay were actually in league play or playing for things. I mean, this is the first time there's been a meaningful game in 7 years. So other than maybe Lucky, I don't believe any of these guys had been around. But there were people floating around both organizations that the fans definitely wanted. Both fans wanted to win this. But on the pitch, though, super chippy, from both the supporter groups and the players. Lots of yellow cards and a red, which I'm sure we'll bring up before the end of the day. But Antley get called for a yellow on a play that might have been kind of both physical, 50-50 kind of thing. Etu gets wrecked at midfield by Mendez, who picks up a yellow for Orlando City. Guillen gets booked in the box, which leads to that penalty that they converted. I have opinions. I think it was a pretty bad call, but I don't know if I have the heart to go back and watch it 4 more times to see. But I just from the press box, we were right above the play when it happened, and again, obviously I have opinions. And then Wyke getting a yellow, but just on a play late in the second half where it was him just showing his frustration, horribly fouling, Pato holding him up, and it was just like, no doubt about it, it was a yellow. But then Orlando City then getting in the box and literally flipping Raiko Rosarena over completely, a little 360 action. And those are all the yellows up until our fearless leader gets a red towards the end of the game. So that's a very long-winded diatribe, but how did you feel about the yellows, the reds, the refereeing, and the chippy play overall of this match?
So that is a huge talking point, and it was brought up in the post-game press conference as well. People were asking Neil, how do you feel about this? And I will give you his quote, and then I'll just go through and say what I felt after having rewatched it, because I definitely felt the same way he did right after the game. But he said right after the game, he felt that everything they did, or everything that we could have got, we did not get, and everything they could have got, they did get. Now, I felt that way after the game. I felt that he was absolutely right about that. I thought that it was ridiculous. Going back and doing the rewatch, I felt a little differently. So where I ultimately fell on this referee, I think that he actually did a very good job of calling the fouls that he did call and not calling the fouls that he didn't call for the most part. There were a couple where it did not work out, obviously, like with the yellow cards. The yellow card that Lewis Hilton got very early in the game, I think that is a yellow card worthy offense, but it was also the first 5 minutes. And generally the referee kind of, it's not so much quote unquote first one is free, but if you haven't had anything going wrong up until then, like you gotta calm down, Mr. Referee. That's a little silly. I think the second yellow card was a little ridiculous that he gave us. And then there was a huge play where Orlando City did not get a yellow card that they absolutely should have. It was the exact same play that he had given a yellow card to Lewis Hilton, just on the other side, obviously. The other big talking point with these, Lawrence White deserved his, but Neil Collins got sent off in this game, something you mentioned. Now, he originally got a yellow card right after halftime. This came from something that happened before the half. And that was also brought up in the after game, in the post game press conference. And Neil Collins said, "I've never seen that before in my life." And I'll tell you what, nor have I. But that was, I did not understand what happened there. But if you then go to when he got sent off, he went onto the field to kick the ball back to the players who were setting up for a set piece. You know, I mean, I'm not a referee, so I cannot say for sure that should be a straight red offense. Or that it shouldn't. But I thought that, if that was a second yellow for Neil, then that's the most ridiculous set of circumstances because of the first yellow card. If it was a straight red, then I didn't know that that's a straight red offense. And if so, that's pretty friggin' stupid, honestly.
Well, and in the context of the game as well, it's in the stoppage time or extra time. We're in stoppage time, and we are awarded a free kick in the offensive zone. The Orlando City player kicks the ball away from the Rowdies, just kicks the ball, and there's no one else around. There's not a ball boy. There's not another coach. There's not another player. There's nobody in the area except for Neil Collins, who at this point, the referee has tried to move players away from the free kick. Oh, stop these people from chirping at each other. It took a full 45 seconds to really get this free kick underway. By the time that an Orlando City player is now kicking the ball away from the spot, and so Neil, in the scope of, you have a team that's down by 1 goal, owning the possession at the time, has forward momentum, just got fouled on a breakaway towards the goal. They're building up all this momentum. You just want to get this over because you do not know when that referee is going to whistle for the end of the game. And so, should Neil have jumped on the pitch and kicked the ball by the letter of the law? Maybe not. I don't know if that's a straight red, but in terms of at that moment, in the context of it, it wasn't like he booted the ball across the pitch or
nothing
kicked
like
it
that
away from the where the play was supposed to. It was, he literally just he just served it back towards the players. I mean, it was not an aggressive manner by any other than aggressively trying to get the ball back to where it should have been a minute earlier, and so it was frustrated. I completely understand his frustration. All in the press box, even, we're sitting here going like, when are they going to kick this free kick? What's going on? There's a little bit of gamesmanship going on by the purple team, and then for him to get a straight red, just ridiculous. Not like you said, not the yellow to the red or whatever.
Yeah, and that's also to say nothing of the blatantly missed penalty that was an obvious handball from Orlando City. I mean, the letter of the law now for handballs has changed from when I was growing up. The way that handballs were given when they were accidental was whether or not you gain possession by your use of the hand. Again, so this isn't in an accidental situation. Now the game or the letter of the law is whether or not your arm is in an unnatural position. So let's say if your arm is right next to your body and you've got it as close as possible and it still hits you and you gain possession, then that's not going to be a handball. That won't be called. Absolutely not that case. That is not what we saw. And I think that was a ridiculous non-call. That is where I was beyond, the thing with Neil Collins. That is where I was the most upset. But I'm sure that there's a lot more to be said about this referee that we can't even get to. So it was not the best performance, I will say. I'll have my peace there. I'll hold my peace.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a bitter. I mean, I am bitter. I am very bitter about it as a fan. But objectively, it was there. literally my professional opinion is that there were two sets of rules for certain points of this game, whether it be yellows or reds that were dished out. And I think that there are some legitimate gripes, and I guess maybe some of them, it's just like I said, some of them were 50-50, depending on who the referee is and at the time and their angle, are they going to call that a foul or not. But there were certain very big aspects, whether it be a handball or an overreaction, that were baffling, even in the press box. So, but again, all in all, the boys on the field gave a valiant effort, and I think it's something you should be very, very, very proud of as a Rowdies fan. And even in a loss, even with the supporters from the other side chirping and things like that, I think that you can hold your head high for the next time we play, whenever that may be.
And hopefully it'll be next year, because I know if we keep playing them, we're gonna get one of these results. The way that we did it, we have to. But
when we get promoted into MLS, right? That'll
oh yes, of course. Careful, I'm sure there are some fans who don't even want to hear that.
I'm touching a nerve with that one. I'm sorry.
But that will do it for our Orlando City review. There's a lot more that we can do, and I'm going to get back to it a little bit in our hot take section, but we do have another game to cover. This one I don't think will be quite as extensive, because it doesn't have as much emotion riding on it. Let's just be honest. Even though it is a league game and it is worth points, it was not the levels of hype as it was against Orlando City. So we'll get into that game versus the New York Red Bulls, and we'll review it here really quickly. So again, with the starting 11, Rico Rosarena still got the start. At the back, it was Lawrence White, Connor Antley, Aaron Guillen. In the midfield, it was Dayon Harris, Lewis Hilton, Jan Eckert, Jake Armament. And up top, it was Jake LaCava, Juan Tejada, Kyle Gregg. So those were the again rotated lineups that we saw. So it was very interesting that they went with this again. The Rowdies did well in this game to create good situations, but yet again they really didn't do anything in terms of actually making those situations into big chances. You have to convert your crosses one way or another, and that's something that we're going to get to in our analysis section. But yeah, it wasn't great in that part. We gave up a very fluky goal late in the first half. It was so frustrating to see, but that's just something that happens again in this game. And we had to get back into the game late on, because we were unable to equalize for a while. We also had a question last week between Leo and me whether or not players who are on loan to other teams can play against their parent club, and we found out that they can, because Jordan Adebayo-Smith did get on the field against us this past weekend. So this was not the result that we wanted to help us, get back to business after that Open Cup game, but that is the result that we get. So let us move into our analysis here, and I just want to start with, what happened against New York Red Bulls that we didn't win this game? What really went wrong for you?
We kind of saw the reverse. We were the Goliath in the David versus Goliath matchup this week. We were the ones that threw out a bit of a rotated squad. And again, in my notes, I wrote crosses to nowhere. Jake LaCava, I think, had a really wonderful first half. And really all game, it's just like we were just one kick, one step, one crossbar, 1 6-inch placement away from putting goals in the net. We were the aggressive team. We had the chances. We had the possession. And all credit, of course, to Marcucci, the Red Bulls 2 goalkeeper. I mean, he made 3 different saves in the first half.
He almost saved our equalizer too.
No, I mean, like, again, I do want to give credit where credit is due, but at the same time, we're not burying shots. And even with a rotated squad, I mean, Tejada coming in, Arman, Hilton is still there, Dayon Harris, who was in the cup match and had a great showing. And they brought in the starting back 3, other than Lawrence White in the back. But White, I think, did a phenomenal job. So it wasn't effort, it wasn't talent, it was just whatever you want to call luck or whatever. It just wasn't able to happen where and James, we keep hearing this a lot. We heard it last year, we've been saying it this year. It's Leo was creating chances. We own the possession. We own the shots. We even in Lucky, Leo and Lucky in the second half. But it goes into the first half too. Like Jake LaCava was creating chances and just could not bury it. And unfortunately, New York was able to score a really good goal right at stoppage time of the first half, and they drew a free kick. They did well in the set piece. They got a little bit of luck, and they scored a goal. And unfortunately, we weren't able to score more than one to equalize. But that's my kind of overall take on that.
Yeah. So crosses, right? Crosses are a big thing here. This is a big part of the Rowdies game. This is something that they are, they build up. And that is the way that we try to get ourselves into these games, whether we're down or whether it's 0-0, whatever. I wanted to keep some tabs on it this game, and I think I was texting you during the watch. The first half, the Rowdies had 14 crosses that were unsuccessful, and 3 that were successful by my measure, which I will say, just for the sake of transparency, I don't know if this is how statistics companies measure it, whatever, but I was saying the cross gets in, and on the other side of the cross, a Rowdies player gets on the end of it, whether that's their head, their foot, whether that's somehow it hits them in the back. I don't know, but if a Rowdies player got on the end of it, I counted that as successful. So it was 3 to 14, and you got to say, okay, what's going on here? The Rowdies value crosses very highly. That is a big thing of their game. So why are we doing so poorly at these? And if it's something that they work on so frequently that it's something that they must do in training, obviously, then why are we not getting on the end of it? And this is something that I brought up to Neil. I used the official statistics. I did not use anything that I counted, because if I tried to do that, then I'm pretty sure I was going to get an earful. But I used the official statistics from FOTMob, and I told them what our percentage of successful crosses was based on what they said. And Neil Collins told me that when he sees that these are not, connecting so much, there are 2 things that he thinks of. Quality of cross. Is the quality of cross good enough? Or are there enough people getting into the box to get on the end of it? And those are the 2 big things that he sees would probably go wrong here. Now, he said that he expected that there were enough Rowdies players getting into the box to actually score these and create some goals off of them. That is what we should be doing. And the quality of cross is not something that he was ready to call into consideration at that point, at least from our conversation. So I said, or I didn't say anything there. I let him keep talking. But what he said is, these are just unlucky, I guess, and he expects that it's going to come for us, but it just hasn't yet. And I'm not sure. From a fan's perspective, I'll just be honest and say I don't know how satisfying that is, but I do understand from his perspective, of course, that it is extremely difficult to try and, come up with some sort of answer, because it's true that we are putting in a lot of crosses. And I don't think that all of them are, skying up into rosette, as they like to say in England. But, it is definitely a problem in terms of conversion. So, that is one issue that the Rowdies are having. I think that our pressing game was really good against this team. That is a note that I have. But, we can't do much if we're not getting these crosses off. And, another non-call for a probable handball in the box here, that was a problem. With all of that combination, this is what you get.
And it's I kind of say, like, we've heard this all before, because we're the better team on the pitch. We're the better team statistically. We make all the chances, and it just hurry up and wait until we score a goal. And then it makes it, unfortunately, it exacerbates the situation when they get a goal off of a free kick. I mean, of course, all credit to Raffanello. He puts it in the top 90, but he gets a little bit of assistance from Jan Ekker's shoulder. And Ryko was in position to make the save, other than it got deflected by another 8 inches. And so it's just, when they score, when a team that we are just absolutely dominating on the pitch gets a goal, and this happens to us, whether it's on the counter or a weird fluky play or whatever, when those things happen and you're the team that's owning the possession, getting the shots, trying to make the chances, and having the positive football, it just makes that little bit more bitter, I think. Now we did score a goal. We did equalize. This wasn't a loss. We earned a point. But we're just a lot of draws this year. Where last year it was win or lose, no draws. Now it's just all draws. It's a completely different situation here. But we're not losing. We're just not winning, I guess is the best way to put it. In the 85th minute, it took almost the full 90, but we got a breakaway off of a midfield dispossession. Hilton was able to strike a phenomenal long ball to a streaking Connor Antley, who battled in the box and fired away, got it deflection off of the keeper, and then Leo Fernandez is right there in the box. Just like Neil said, we got to get people in the box. Well, Leo's ready to go, gets the rebound, one touches it into the net, and I'm writing LFG in my notebook, and now we have it went from being very, very bitter at the 85th minute to being at least a palpable draw, and where we're getting a point in the column. So,
yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything that we have to say on the game. I think the last question before we get to our man of the match, though, is just how are you feeling about the Rowdies' current form, really? Because we've got a lot of games now to look back on, and we've got a couple more in quick succession here. So, what are you feeling?
To be honest with you, I don't want this to be my hot take, but to be honest with you, I know the schedule is and the schedule isn't forgiving for the next week or two anyway, but I think whether he's being hamstrung by injuries and who's available and whatever, I think that we talked about who's our best 11. I think that Neil has tinkered with the lineup. I think that Neil has gone forth and put guys in positions, but I think we need to just kind of stick with the lineup. I think we need to put forth our best 11, whoever's available at the time, because we've tried rotating. We've been, obviously the cup match was big, but now it's time to rack up W's. Now it's time to put balls in the net, and I think we just need to overload our competition until we get the full points. So whatever that has to, of course, I'm not in training, I don't know, but that's I think that we've been tinkering with the lineup and trying to play the game of who's available and whatnot, but it hasn't resulted in goals and it hasn't resulted in full points. So we could sit here and wait and hope that they put the ball in the net, but until basically Neil says you're the best 11, go out there and score goals, and if you don't score goals, you're not in the 11 anymore. Maybe not that drastic, but until that happens, we're just kind of floating around in draw purgatory.
Yeah, I think actually that's probably the best point here, is that they have to really figure out what that 11 is, and they need to get them a string of games going. The one thing I will say about our starting lineup the last couple of games, I think Raiko Rosarena is so fun to watch. He is supremely confident. There were 2 or 3 moments in both of these games in the last 10 minutes where if he didn't step up huge, there was going to be a goal for sure. Like, for sure, Orlando City or New York Red Bulls were going to score. And he came up out of his box, 40 yards out of his box in the Orlando game. He uses his head to get the ball around the player, and then he keeps the ball at his feet, and he's just calm, and he's cool, and he finds somebody with it. In the game against New York Red Bulls, he did the same thing, not with his head, but he beat a player to the ball and then beat him to find a guy. In the same game against Orlando, he was coming up super late. The Orlando City players had a breakaway because all of our guys were moved up into their half, and he comes up with a huge stop. He makes himself big, and he's there at the edge of his box, right where he needs to be, and he blocks. It's really fun having him back there. I gotta be honest. I do like having Raiko there.
He's definitely the more flamboyant. I don't have a better word to, but like, he just has a flair for the dramatic, I guess. It's like he's leaping, and he's just showing his athleticism and his timing, and his like getting just that little bit of fingertip on the ball to save a goal the other game. It's just like it is very exciting to watch him play goalkeeper. Where Cochran has been phenomenal this year as well. but I think he's a little less apt to running out so quickly or putting himself in a on the other side of the net and having to dive over to the other side. He's maybe a little bit more conservative, I guess, in terms of thinking about where to position himself before a free kick or on a breakaway. So it's definitely a difference, but both of these goalkeepers have been wonderful. But Raiko, man, it's fun to watch him play goalkeeper for sure.
Absolutely. So now that's all done. Before we get to our hot takes, we do need to do our man of the match. We spent so long on these two games. So,
yeah.
Eureka, tell me yours for OC and the New York Red Bulls.
Leo Fernandez. I brought it up in the post game with Neil. I thought that Leo was locked in from the first whistle. I think he did a phenomenal job on the left wing. I think he did a great job moving up into that little 10 role for a couple minutes until they brought in some other guys. I think that he did he was ready, and he was one of the Rowdies that I think was a league above the rest on the pitch. And who knows? Maybe there's some other scouts and people watching the game. We'll see what that means for his future. But for sure, Leo Fernandez. For New York Red Bulls game, Lawrence Wyke was my guy. I think that Lawrence Wyke was a guy who battled very well on the back three. I have no reservations with him being on that back three now. I think he won some very big tackles. I think that he made a lot of recoveries in this game. He made some great passes offensively, but we've seen that with him in the midfield, so that isn't too out of character. And I think he stepped it up. I just wish that he would send it from the top of the box every once in a while.
Yeah, fair point. So for me, against Orlando City, I had to do something a little unorthodox for this one. I think that people were trying to get with Neil to see what was your take on individual players, and he kept going back to saying this was a team performance. And for me, I had to give it to the team. And in my specific instance, this was for me the Rowdies' right defensive unit. So Connor Antley as the center back, and then Lawrence Wyke to his right, and in front of him, Dayon Harris. And when Dayon Harris went out and Jordan Scarlett came in, Connor Antley moved to the right wing-back spot. So, yeah, Connor Antley, Lawrence Wyke, Dayon Harris, they were my collective man of the match for the game against Orlando City. And then against New York Red Bull, it was Connor Antley. I think that, in all honesty, the attacking side for that game, they did not really cover themselves in glory. So I looked at the back line, and I looked at their statistics. Lawrence Wyke led in a couple of those stats, but Connor Antley led in a couple of other ones. And in addition, I thought Connor Antley moved to the right wing-back spot again, and he acquitted himself well. I know that he immediately won a corner kick, like literally the first play that he was moved into the right wing-back spot. So for me, it was Connor Antley.
Yep, I can't disagree with that. He also was a candidate. Very, very good job.
So now we have that out of the way. Let's do our hot takes. Eureka, I will let you start on this one.
It's going to be short and sweet. No more silver linings. Enough is enough. We've talked about it for weeks now. You got to put the ball in the net. We need to finish. It is a valiant effort. I'm obviously that's a very simplistic take. It's just that we cannot keep giving them these pats on the back because they're half-hearted. I mean, it's like, yeah, you did a good job, but it's like, we know you're better. We know you're better than your opposition. And we know that they're coming to play. The other teams are bringing their A game against the back-to-back Eastern Conference champions every single time. This is a tough division. However, I think they have the right guys. I think they have the right talent. I think they have the right tactics even. It's just whatever they have to do, it's time for them. Neil can't kick the ball in the net for them. It's time for these players.
He'll get sent off.
To be honest with you, I mean, Neil found the ingredients. He put them on the field. I believe in them. I believe they are the right ingredients. It's just now it has to be about execution. Please, that's what we're looking for. Enough is enough. You have to finish.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know. I don't have much more to say to that. For My hot take, I got to be honest, hot takes are supposed to be something where, fans or whoever's listening is going to be like, "Ooh, wow, that's not something I thought of." This is something you thought of. This is in terms of the temperature, this is a freezing cold take, but it sucks so much to lose to Orlando City. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
When we went there, it was super cool that all of RBLR Sports got to go, and that we got to join all these people. Like you said, they got the whole bus, man. They went all out for this game. And then when we go there, it's the first one I think they kept saying since 2014.
Yeah.
And boy, I'll tell you what, a lot of those games were preseason games where we played Orlando City, but they do not forget. They remembered. And my fiance and I were walking back home to our car from one end of the stadium to the opposite side. So we had to walk through all of the Orlando City fans to get there. And boy, all of them wanted to make sure that we knew that it was 7-0.
Mm-hmm.
I had, if anybody saw me there, I had a great big hat, green hat that I had some yellow stripes on. That was taken off my head. And I do want to say, it was a felt old leprechaun hat with yellow tape on it. So for the guy who took it, I'm not too mad. If you had taken like my actual cap, then I would have been upset. Then I definitely would have been pissed. But if you're going to take anything, at least it was that one. Also, don't steal from people. But, if it was so frustrating. And I really, I was actually sat with Matt Cox of Unused, and I want to take one quick moment to say I was sitting with him. I ran into Stephen Cundiff before the game. Everybody over at Unused is great. They're such good guys. They really are. But I was sitting with Matt during the game, and I was talking with him at halftime when we were like, wow, the Rowdies are doing so good. The Rowdies could actually win this game, and they could have. But he was talking about the past games that, and all the interactions that he's had with Orlando City fans in years past. And, oh, my God, it's just it's such a pisser to lose that one.
Especially because I know that somewhere on Twitter, some jackoff has that stupid leprechaun hat, and they're like, we got a trophy from the Rowdies. Like, oh, I'm a ultra. And unfortunately, that's something that we couldn't avoid before the match, during the match, and after the match. Even in the press box, it was you could hear the vulgarities being spewed from the wall, or the quarter of the wall that was filled for this game. So
that stadium also, they put all of the Rowdies fans literally in the dark when the sun went down.
It was
like, are you
so
kidding?
bad. It was so bad. Like, well, and from the reports, I mean, from you guys being there, and from me seeing it with my own two eyes, and seeing the security measures that were put forth, like we were like the Rowdies fans were the ones that were gonna like be the unruly section that like tore up the stadium or whatever. It was like, guys, it was not fun to be on the other side of a losing effort, but I think the change. I want to take an opportunity to say that the mob was great, the Skyway Casuals were great. You were in the middle of it. I was observing it the whole game. I always kept looking over at you guys and making sure that like what you going doing. We could hear you, we could see you on the broadcast, on the rewatch. It was apparent that everyone was active and yelling and screaming and cheering. And it's such a shame that they put you guys so far away from the other side where you couldn't really interact with each other. I understand putting a distance between them physically because of dumb things like what you just you said, and to be honest, what you said is very tame and timid compared to what has happened literally in the past of these franchises. So it was a little disappointing that they put you guys all the way on the other side of the pitch and in the dark. Inevitably, horrible. But
I do want to say, the Rowdies players, they came over after the game and they all stood with us and they clapped with us. Class act from
absolutely.
Those guys. Absolutely. Everybody came over and they recognized that, we came into hostile territory, so to speak. We didn't actually do any of the work out there. It's the players, but they still appreciate us showing up. And they're all great.
Neil was one section away from you at one point.
That's true. That is true.
during the game.
But anyway, let's get off of those games. They were not too fun in the end. We're going to move into the future here. So let's do a quick standings update, and then we'll do our previews because we have taken a while now on these last ones. The Rowdies are exactly. The Rowdies are currently in 4th place with 13 points, and that is from 8 games played. So we are currently behind Louisville City with 18 points, Pittsburgh with 16 points, and Detroit City with 14 points. It should also be noted, unfortunately, Indy 11 and the Miami FC have 11 points and 10 points respectively, but each of them has a game in hand, which means they can potentially overtake us on the Eastern Conference table. If you look out west really fast, it is led by Colorado Springs, San Antonio, San Diego, Phoenix, and Las Vegas in that order. Again, we will be playing San Diego this weekend. Let's get into our 2 games preview here. So the first of our 2 games this week is against Memphis 901 in Tennessee. That is at 8 p.m. this Wednesday, and it will be on ESPN Plus if you are looking to watch it like I will be. I'm assuming, Eureka, you will be as well.
I'll be right there.
There we go. There we go. Everybody, please join us in cheering on the lads from a distance because I will not be able to go to Tennessee on Wednesday. But it should be noted Memphis's last game was an away win to Colorado Springs Switchbacks. They are the league leaders. Obviously, that is important to note. Their starting lineup has been fairly consistent the last couple of weeks, and they've had a lot more rest recently. They were not in the 3rd round of the Open Cup like we were in our game on Wednesday. And their game before that, which was a Wednesday game, was canceled due to weather. So they have only played this past weekend, and, they should be perfectly fine, frankly. They've got a fair number of players with light MLS experience, I will say. One that we should note is Derek Dodson, who was a thorn in our side for Hartford last year on loan from Orlando City. This is going to be a tough game. It's a surging team, and we are away from home. All of these things are important to take into account. We should, expect that all of those factors will be important when we play them on Wednesday. And we'll do the second preview here really quickly. So after that, we get back home to Al Lang with the game against San Diego Loyal at 7:30. Please be there. The Rowdies are going to need everyone in the stands cheering them on to get back into the best of form that we know that they can achieve. San Diego's last 2 games were Saturday, April 16th and Tuesday, April 19th. Those were both losses. It was at home versus Louisville City and then at LA Galaxy in the Open Cup 3rd round. They are not going to have, or they will not have any games coming up beforehand because they did not play this past weekend. So again, they are going to have more rest than we will, but they are coming to Al Lang, and we should know that that is a factor in how things go. They've been chopping and changing their starting 11 a lot lately, but they do have a famous coach in Eureka. I'm assuming that you might have seen some chants, some banter, who knows what online about Mr. Landon Donovan.
Let's just say that I believe that our coaching staff really wants to beat Landon Donovan, and I believe that plus we don't get to play the Western Conference a lot, which I'm still not sure is a real thing. I've only seen Orange County. Quote unquote. I'm not sure the Western Conference is real, and until they come here and play us, I won't actually believe that it's real. But they keep saying that. Obviously it's fun to talk about Landon Donovan. He's a famous name in our sport. So anytime he's going to be on the sidelines or whatnot, it's a good time. But I think there's going to be a little bit of added effort put in by the coaching staff to get the full points against San Diego Loyal. But neither of these games, whether it's Memphis or San Diego, are going to be easy. Right. There's a bunch of good games. And I believe Luis Fernando is playing for Memphis 9. Well, he played 2 matches in this month for Memphis. So who knows? Maybe he'll be on the bench and returning to a team that he never actually played for in the Rowdies, but but who knows? Maybe Fernandez will shake some hands and kiss some babies here at Al Lang.
Maybe, but they've been doing pretty well this season, San Diego, and their latest schedule means they will still be up for it. Obviously, we want to get the win regardless. Are there any changes to the lineup that you would like to see, Eureka?
Again, I think Arozarena or Cochran can both play. Arozarena is kind of the hot hand, but I think Cochran's had enough of a rest. For all these, the 11 we talked about in the very early parts of the show, I want to see Scarlett Antley-Guillen. I want to see Fernandez, Hilton, Wyke. I want to see Guinzotti, LaCava. I want to see, if it's not Greg, if Dos Santos is 100%, boom, put him out there. Fire all the cannons, to steal a phrase from the Bucks. But I want all the firepower. I want all the weapons. I'm like Kylo Ren, and I'm just like more. Please, we need goals. We need to just put them in the net. And I don't even care who scores them. I mean, I want Guinzotti to break the record, but please, let's break the seal. I don't want these 1-1 draws. We fire away, boys.
I am well and truly over it. So, all right, the last thing that we have in this section is our predicts. And Eureka,
Yes.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first against these two?
I'll go first for Memphis. You go first for San Diego. How's that? Is that
okay?
fair?
I like that.
All right, Memphis. We're on the road. It is going to be a very tough matchup. They have a lot of good players: Malloy, Kelly, Buckmaster, and just a lot of good guys. But I still think we go on the road and we win 2-1 on the road, sir.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Let's go.
That. Very
Let's
bold.
go.
Very bold.
Let's go.
Unfortunately, I am going to have to do what Leo did last week, and I am going to have to say that we lose this game 2-1.
You son of a gun.
I'm mad at myself for it, and I
All
hope
right,
that Mitch
make
is
it
equally
up.
mad at me online, but...
Make it up. What's San Diego's score, buddy? Make it up to us.
All right, so San Diego score, I am going for exactly the reverse, and we are winning that game 2-1. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, I don't want to get... Well, come on. It's our job to say what we feel, but 2-1 win. I actually think we're going to win 3-1. I want to say 4-1 so bad, but San Diego concedes a lot of goals. They're very good. They do score a lot of goals, but I think with our defense, we're going to hold them. I absolutely believe they can score a goal, but I also believe that if we own the possession, if we do what we're going to need to do, in the Western Conference, quote-unquote, if that's a real thing, they play very little defense, and every time San Diego plays an Eastern Conference opponent, it seems that it's either a big shootout or a lopsided loss. So I fully believe that it's going to be a 3-1 victory for the green and gold. Come on, you Rowdies. Let's go.
All right. I like that. So we will do our one more thing segment and then get everybody out of here. I do want to say, obviously, liking and subscribing is free to this podcast. But if you think you possibly need some new threads, you can support us by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all of the designs that we have got cooked up there. It is a lot of cool stuff online. Eureka's been working on that, and I think that I actually just got one of these as a birthday gift for someone who will be getting it this weekend, hopefully right before the game. And if you would like to get one, please use the promo code COYR for 10% off. It will obviously be nice to use a discount. So the next thing that I want to say, Pittsburgh Riverhounds had their highest ever attendance at Highmark Stadium. 5,202 fans. Congratulations to them.
Good on you.
Yeah. But what that means for me, hey, the Rowdies need to outdo them this weekend against San Diego and get ourselves back to winning ways.
Someone call Mike Pendleton. This attendance cannot be true. But yes, we need to do better. So go get your green, get your gold, be like Amy Beamer, make your custom cowboy boots or whatever she was wearing is awesome. Come on, get your stuff, get your paint, be like Mitch, be like the rest of the mob. Come on, you Rowdies.
Let's go. Please join us, the RBLR crew, in showing up against San Diego. We got to cheer this team on. We got to cheer them through this tough month that April has been. And finally, the last thing here, Eureka, you actually have been covering the Bandits, who played their first USFL game last Monday and won. I think, unfortunately, did they lose their second game after that?
What a downer for this episode. Yeah. They played a very, very good first half of the first game. They kind of didn't do so well in the second half. And this week they ran into the buzzsaw that is the New Orleans Breakers. But if all of those teams that I just said are speaking literally foreign languages to you, check us out. We are at the USFL. We are at the at RBLR Bandits on Twitter, but also in the same feed that you get this Rowdies podcast, we have a podcast on the Bandits, but also the Lightning, who are about to be in the playoffs, the Rays, the Bucks, who are about to get in the draft. I mean, it's like no matter what you follow for Tampa Bay, Team Tampa Bay is accurately represented with all of our crew here. We have a fantastic team, and I'm just happy I get to fill in a few times. James, this was phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me here for this hour-long. It's always fun to talk with you and get in when I can.
I'm happy that we were able to get you on as well, and I'm super happy that next week we will have yet another voice to add to RBLR Sports. So please tune in for that. Please also follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. You can follow me if you'd like. I am at RBLR James K. You can also use the hashtag AskRBLR. If we have any complaints and we want to speak to the producer, where could we take those, Eureka?
You can put all wonderful comments to at Eureka RBLR, and if you have any disagreements on Twitter, it's at Elon Musk. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. I cannot say it enough. We appreciate each and every single one of you, and if you've made it this long in the podcast, you are truly the MVPs. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And please like and subscribe to our podcast. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple, Google Podcasts, whatever you want, YouTube, and all other major podcast platforms. We are there.
Come on, you rowdies!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.